including operations and management. So yes, there is, but this is also related to only how technology impacts some of these areas. Now this we expect to go into standardization using TSTSI or BIS. TSTSI, well, we have heard a lot of, in their resurgence to getting things in smart cities. I mean, for some time there was a lull. BIS has, this was the original thing that they started off, but I see Narang here, and he has changed what BIS wants to do. I think they have 4 areas now. I think that merits another conversation. The timeline for that is April 30th, sorry, not 31st. Now, which comes to one area that I want to talk about heavily, and that is, how do we get these things done? And this is a problem that we encounter in all these standardization or pre-standardization work that we're doing, is motivating people to get doing the work. I mean, hardly anybody now wants to contribute. Nobody's got time to contribute to the nation. I mean, how do you get that done? And the reason for that is, there was 2 years back, there was a lot of work that was done. But now it is the sheer lack of coherence, I would say, between the different departments. Now when people are asked to do work, they say, why? Why are we doing it? Because there is DOT, and there is MATE, and then there is MOUD, and there are all these different departments, and finally, there is BIS doing some work, there is MATE doing some work. Where is all this heading to? There has to be agreement between the different institutions. I think people have to sit at the really high level, come together and say, this is my area, this is the area that we're going to work on. And ultimately, it's about getting some of these implemented, or getting cities to take it up. I mean, I can see Mr. Nagarajan here. Cities should actually help in taking these things on, because otherwise it just ends up in documents. And people all over here are really smart enough and say, why would I just work on a document that just lies at the shelf or stacked somewhere? So that's what we really need to do. This is my last slide. So in summary, I brought up China to say they're doing a lot of work, and we need to be fast like them, but we also need the thoroughness that EU brings. So speed and meticulousness, both are needed. Cities and citizens are interconnected. I just showed you how. And it's not a technological interconnection we're talking about at all. A city comprises of, as Mr. Salem said again, several different departments, ULBs, which really don't gel well, even amongst each other. We need to make all of them succeed. And that is what technology can do, ideally, if at all done well. And last but not the least, we need to collaborate. We really need a lot of collaboration. Without collaboration and streamlining activities, we really can't achieve more. We really can't achieve what we want to do. I'll end my conversation here. Thank you.
Yeah, so thank you very much, Bipin. I just would like to make one remark, if you allow me, before, because Bipin has so much talked about China. I feel compelled to say that 1M2M and SE are also working with some of the bodies that have been mentioned by Bipin in China, in particular CCSA, which is the Chinese TSDI, if I may say. And CCSA has taken on board 1M2M and developed an implementation for China of the common service layer, exactly like what India is doing. So we're among friends here. And I very much appreciate your presentation for that. Sorry?
I don't doubt that.
No, yeah. So in principle, we had 20 minutes for question and answers. I'd like to ask the organizer, where are we with those 20 minutes? And where are you guys with your stomach also?
We can trim it down to 10 minutes. One question from Delhi and one from Bangalore.
One question from Delhi, one question from Bangalore. That's a lot of people for one question.
Too many hands.
Okay, one question from Delhi.
Maybe we could.
Okay, can we have two? Okay. 10 minutes.
Can we have 10 minutes?
Please, so first, excuse me, please introduce yourself, and please keep your questions, okay? We don't want to start a new presentation. Thank you.
Thanks. My question is very, very simple, that when we are talking smart cities, we are not yes, common service layer, I myself have been supporting it aggressively and trying to bring it into the standardized framework, but The point is, it just serves one purpose. What we also need to do is define the overall overarching ICT architecture. And when we say open standards, open does not mean interoperable. Okay, when we say APIs, you need to have APIs which are compliant to some standard. We need standardization for APIs also for different verticals, different applications. What is the roadmap on these lines to make it actually holistically deployable into and fit into the overall ICT architecture of the smart cities in a very comprehensive, very easy, efficient, smooth way?
Umar, you take this one? No? Orinda, can you answer that?
Okay.
Roadmap for end-to-end interoperability in the one-to-one architecture.
Give it a try. I think this is probably a difficult question. No,
Questions are supposed to be difficult.
it's supposed to be difficult, but maybe we can progress this offline.
Yeah.
I think I'm advocate of learning by doing,
Okay.
which means I think we have a basis and we have passed some interoperability tests. And there are already so many vertical data models that can be mapped or integrated to one M2M. We did some part of the job in one M2M, but there will be multiple other ones like DALI or Talk or WITS or DLMS COSEM, etc. And those are still need to be mapped. I think in one M2M we are doing this, but we are still contribution driven. And if something can be progressed in an experiment in India, then we can take it back and put it in the standards and put it in the interoperability channel.
Sure. So what we are trying to do is, in India, we are trying to even harmonize the southbound last mile communication layer also. And where we want to harmonize right from the communication protocols to the data semantics. What we are trying to attempt is, I know it's a Herculean task, but we are going to start very soon, is we are trying to only focus on smart infrastructure. Because as such, if I go talk IoT, there can be multiple applications. In smart infrastructure domain, we are going to standardize, create a framework, define whatever 100, 500,000 parameters that we need, or data semantics that we need to freeze today, and then define a framework for tomorrow, so that people can communicate with the common service layer. We have one set of interworking proxies or the APIs which will work with all multiple verticals.
Thank you very much, Kishore.
We'll take up the second.
Yeah, exactly. So the gentleman with a gray suit, you don't have a question anymore? You had a question? Yes. So the gentleman there.
I wish to put up the situation. We have 4 standardization bodies really in India. We have the Bureau of Indian Standards, we have the TSDSI, we have the Telecom Engineering Center, and the 4th one we should not omit is the CDOT. Now, how is the collaboration between these going to be implemented?
Okay. See, CDOT is an R&D organization, autonomous R&D organization of Government of India. Right? So we are contributing to standards, but we are not a standards defining organization. TSDSI is one, but TSDSI is a telecom standard society. Now, BIS, Bureau of Indian Standards, it is a standards organization, but working in a different domain altogether. When it comes to telecom standards, TSDSI has been formed. And Telecom Engineering Center had been bringing out the, I think, FRs and GRs, right? So generic requirements based on the international standards which have been there. So work has been very clearly defined and the lines are very clear as to what these organizations are supposed to do. And in the smart city framework, since it is a collaborative work, so the collaboration of all these three entities are required. So one has to work in harmony. TEC, TSDSI, BIS, all of them have to put their hands together, join their hands together to come out wherever it is their scope of things and their expertise. I believe I have answered your question.
Just add to that,
I still believe that BIS has the final say.
I can just add to that, as you pointed out, see, we have CDOT and TEC as part of DOT as members of TSDSI, so they work together. And with BI, we have a liaisoning kind of a relation with BIS, where we take up in coordination all these common aspects which are to be standardized.
If I may,
Right, I'm sorry, I think, one thing which is emerging, let me be specific to common services framework. There is a unanimous and agreement across BIS, as much as I know, and in TSDSI, and in CDOT, and most of the implementing agencies wanted. Probably today is the mood that we at least have to set an example of creating first standard ahead of the implementation, which is global standard. So, and I have actually seen this great deal of agreement coming forward. So, TEC will come after the theoretical work is done, standardization is made, they have to be coming on board, and DOT also wants that to happen, as much as I know. So, I think we have an opportunity to set an example at this point in time. Within next 3 months, we should get this whole thing done. That's what I would conclude with.
Margot, may I?
Yeah.
Margot, may I?
yes, sure.
So, Mr. Tyagi, it's not just about us or DOT or METI saying this is the standard. It is also about MOUD and the cities accepting it and saying we will do something with it. It is not just about defining something for lack of acceptance and for lack of implementation. That is an area that needs a lot of working on and needs a lot of agreement too.
Role reversal right now. I have to answer the question raised by the panel. Thank you. I think the MOUD, if you see their website, it's clearly saying that they are for standards. Now, but they can't say which is standard, obviously, because they are a user of that standard. But on the statement which is already published on the website, and understanding is, once you guys define, I will implement it. So for God's sake, define it. That's what they're saying. And the city, the point which has been brought by Mr. Sivasalam is the same. I mean, you do your work, you tell us what we have to do, we'll question that, you help me to implement. That's all what is going on. So once we have done our job, we will go to next level and we will get it implemented. Also the city of Surat, chief is here. We will work very closely with them to implement the first implementation of 1M, 2M. So I want to fast forward this whole national level implementation plan, because in national interest it is required that we work on the common services layer where there is a unanimity.
Thank you for this clarification, and I think the world is watching you. My friends from India said, if something works in India, it will work anywhere in the world. So I appreciate that you are taking the lead, and we are seriously watching what's going on in Indian smart city projects. And I think it's a big challenge, and I seriously believe you can take some leading role. There is significant export and trade opportunities both ways, and this is very significant for EU and India collaboration in particular. One last thing about standards. I think international standards is important, plays an important role for trade, international trade. But it has to go back and forth. It's upstream, downstream, and there may be cases, for instance, you provided a case where you can be ahead of the international standard, and that's perfectly fine. We can take it on board, and you can improve the international standard. Thank you.
Is this when we have question from Bangalore? Instead of Bangalore, fine.
Okay, so I've come from Bangalore, so you can take it as a question from Bangalore. Yeah. So I have been in the field of fire detection, security, surveillance, etc. for the last 20 years, and I've seen the emergence of secure houses, then secure small townships, then secure large townships, and then now we are talking about smart cities, and people were also talking about maybe another 2-3 years down the line we'll be talking about smart countries. But when I see the usage of terms like Internet of Things and network of sensors, I get a bit worried. Are we kind of disrupting those systems which have been created? Like when we talk about
Mic doesn't work.
Hello? Yeah. When we talk about industrial IoT, for example, industries are kind of, their data analysis, everything is very good. And when we talk M2M, are we kind of disrupting that or disrupting a building management system? Should we not call this also like Internet of Systems rather than always taking the term Internet of Things, and it seems as if we are going to throw up a lot of hardware and disrupt the verticals. So this is my question to this August panel.
So thank you. In my presentation, when I presented the vision for smart cities, I put one requirement. It's written very clearly. Don't disrupt existing deployment which are operational, build on top. So this is not going to be greenfield IoT. IoT has to take into account existing deployments. So one way for the smart city, we said, if we have an existing deployment, we can build an adapter on top of the cloud app that deploys that existing deployment to push some data or a subset of data towards the IoT platform. In this the smart industry, or what is it, industrial domain IoT, similar. If I have a manufacturing facility, the new requirement is not to do manufacturing on my own. The new requirement is to connect manufacturing with consumption, or with shipping, or with supply chain. So, which means that this manufacturing facility will have its own environment, but if I can exchange data and interworking with other systems, that will provide value. So it has to be incremental, and it has to take into account the existing deployment.
So if that is the thing, then do we not need to little bit of reword this whole movement? Otherwise it's sending a wrong signal kind of, and may kind of lead to disruption of existing systems, by like, it's a small point which I would like to make.
In all the work we do in standards, we speak about interworking, and interworking recognizes that there are existing deployments that we have to integrate them one way or the other. Going back to rename the word Internet of Things may not be feasible at this point in time, but I think we have all at the back of our minds the need for interworking and taking into account not the legacy, but existing deployments. Yeah, and in Europe we start to speak about a system approach, and but renaming Internet of Things is not going to happen.
That's it?
I think we can come to the conclusion of the session. I'll just give a very little brief on the summarizing the 4 speeches that we had in the question answers. I think we can be in a fairly comfortable, or again confident position, not comfortable, or a confident position that we have a picture of the need for the common service layer, which has been felt and which has been emphasized by almost all the speakers and the from the questions from the audience, and also the fact that we have a fairly I wouldn't say mature, but at least a good level of standards available, and also platforms developed based on the standard. And with that, what we can look at is getting that onto the real field and get the experience out of it, and then go in the next stage of maturing that into a technology that is, like all we are talking about, a smart city application through the common service layer that is standards based. Thank you. You want to add anything?
Yeah, and it will just be highlighted this afternoon, the specific examples with the cities talk, which I think will be the real application of what you heard this morning, and will be very interesting, followed by a session on all the issues that are pending, and there are quite many, or at least things that we need to work out, and I think both sessions are going to be extremely interesting. I just would like to ask from the organizer, we're not really supposed to come back at 2, are we? So how much time do we have? No, for lunch. Just to tell people, 40 minutes? 40 minutes. So back at what? 2:30? No.
Yeah, ma'am.
Pardon.
Ladies and gentlemen, we thank our session panel members for such an interesting and engaging session. The session indeed provided deep insights on various issues and challenges related to standards in smart cities. May I now go for the formal felicitation? May I request Ms. Margot Dor to felicitate Mr. Arindam Bhattacharya with a memento?
Dear Arindam, thank you very much.
Ms. Margot Dor to felicitate Mr. Bipin Pradeep Kumar. Thank you, ma'am. May I now request Mr. Babu Narayanan to felicitate Dr. Omar Illumi. Mr. Babu Narayanan to felicitate Mr. Seung Myung Jong. I would like to request Mr. Babu Narayanan to felicitate Ms. Margot Dor.
Babu? Yes, I'm lost.
Thank you, ma'am. So, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to remind you about a few things. There is a delegate kit which is provided to you, and inside the delegate kit, you will find all the information related to the workshop. And there will be detailed specifications inside the USB drive, which is there in the delegate kit. And along with that, we would like to request you to visit the exhibition. And there is a feedback mechanism which is set in front of the CDOT stall. You can go there and submit your feedback. And for any queries related to CDOT, you can contact Mr. Arindam Bhattacharya, Ms. Anupama Chopra, Mr. Pankaj Derela for any queries on the technology side. And from the marketing side, you can contact Mr. Thane Krishna. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you. I know there is a constriction in your lunch break, so we'll have a lunch break for 40 minutes, and we'll come back at the same place for the next session. Thank you very much.